Welcome South Africa to the Leads Like Us show. My name is Portia and I'm with my girl Nandipa and Gerardo. The topic for today is inclusion in the South African education system.
Inclusion in the South African education. That's an interesting topic. But it's quite sad that we preach education to learners, but it's not really fully catered to learners who have needs to read, Do you think that's fair?
No, that is not fair because we see that learners with disabilities and learning barriers are not educated for.
But I thank God for giving the government this idea, I could say it comes from God, giving them this idea of inclusive education, to include learners and whatnot.
What is inclusive education?
Inclusive education, it is an approach that is implemented by the government to accommodate all learners who have special educational needs. So the inclusion as a process in education, it caters for all children, meaning like girls and boys, and then students from ethnic and linguistic minorities, population affected by HIV and AIDS, and those with disability and difficulty to learning.
Now that we know what inclusive education is, what are the types of exclusions that learners face in education?
So, Nandipa, what are your thoughts regarding this?
Wow, that's a very brilliant question to ask. First and foremost, what do we know about the excluded? Exclusion, for one, it has many faces, despite the progression since 2000 towards universal education. And the root cause is poverty and marginalization. Besides that, there are types of exclusion that learners face. And for one, it's exclusion from having the life projections needed for learning, exclusion from entry into schools or educational programs, like for instance when a learner does not have educational fees, exclusion from regular or continuing in an educational program. Say for instance, a learner gets an injury and they become disabled, they can no longer be able to go back to school. And exclusion from having a meaningful learning experiences. For example, when teachers cannot be able to meet the prerequisites that the learners need in order for them to have a successful learning experience.
So what can the government or the educational system or the future teachers do in order to accommodate all these learners?
Oh, well, that I would like to pass to Gerardo. Then, what are your thoughts on that?
In order for learners to be given proper education, there should be the use of flexible teaching and learning methods, learning styles with innovative approaches to teaching aids, equipment as well as the use of ICT and collaborative approach, flexible curriculums specific to the specified need and not overload with academic content, initial training to the teachers of physical disability and multicultural teaching, creation of child-friendly environments, the qualitative assessment of learning, and lastly, and which is important, the involvement of parents and the community.
It is interesting what Gerardo has just said. We need to look at the principles of inclusion. So Nandi, can you please elaborate more on the principles of inclusion?
Okay, well, first and foremost, inclusion is rooted in the right to education as enshrined in the Article 26 of the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It also highlights the commitment about the aims of education, recognizing the learner as the center of the learning experience, and this also affects the content and pedagogy and more broadly the classrooms and the school and how it's supposed to be managed.
Interesting discussion that we had about inclusion in the educational system. So we were supposed to have our guest speaker. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here, Mr. Mwatludi Kansakota. So, but we have a clip on him where he is telling us about the policies that were implemented for inclusive education. Can you please put that up?
First of all, I would like to apologize for not being there in person. My name is Mwatludi, and I've been following your show. You discussed most important issues that need observation. And I would like to elaborate more on policies and strategies that were put in place for inclusive education in South Africa. These strategies and policies are documents that relate to the development and the implementation of inclusive education systems, whereby we have white paper on education and training that was implemented on 1997, whereby its initiate key is to observe and respond to a diverse learner's needs. And then secondly, we have the Tirisano program, as well as South African Schools Act of 1996, whereby it allows access to all the learners who have barriers to learning. Thirdly, we have white paper on an integrated national disability strategy of 1997 that emphasizes on strategies for access to the curriculum for learners with impairments. Support the paradigm shift from a medical model of disability to the socio-critical model, and the National Commission on Special Educational Needs and Training, the National Committee on the Education Support Service of 1997, which investigate and make recommendations on all aspects of special needs and support services. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mwatudi, for your input in this discussion. Overall, the discussion was a great success. Thank you, ladies, for educating people at home about inclusive education. I hope teachers are taking notes so that they can have a diverse classroom. And I'd like to thank you for coming to the show. Thank you, everybody who's watching at home. Have a nice day.